Hello everyone. Thank you for tuning in to watch this. Unlike previous videos that we've done which have been broadcast live, this one's actually been pre-recorded for reasons what I won't go into. Unfortunately, we're not able to live stream today, but we have recorded this so you can still watch it at the same time. And just like other live streams that we've done before, we are able to take your questions and comments. So if you do have any, if you can either email them or tweet them via the details that are scrolling across the screen below, what we'll do is we will respond to you directly via Twitter or via email, depending on how you've asked those questions. We'll get back to you. So just to introduce myself, my name is Paul Andrews. I work for the Digital Solutions Project that's based in the University Centre Shrewsbury. If you're not familiar with the project itself, I'll just call up the website here. So this is the project. Our website is digitalucs.co.uk, and the purpose of our project is to provide support to small to medium enterprises, small to medium businesses, which are based in Shropshire or Telford and Wrekin, and to help them introduce digitally innovative products, processes or services to the market. These can either be kind of business to business, or they might be kind of internal to the organisation themselves. The one thing we can't do, unfortunately, is support businesses that are what's called B2C, kind of businesses to customers or to the general public. It has to be kind of a business to business relationship. But all the information is on there about the project and how you can apply. If you do decide to apply and you are successful, then all of the support that we give you is completely free of charge. So we don't take any money for it. We don't want any of your intellectual property. We're honest brokers, and we're purely here to help businesses with technology and getting, like I say, new digitally innovative products, processes or services on the market. So yes, if you want to know more, jump over to our website. Now, the purpose of these live streams, we've been doing them for a number of weeks now, is basically to showcase to you a number of free products or free services that you can use if you are a small business, which might help you normally, but especially during these strange times that we live in with the coronavirus and then the lockdown and all that kind of stuff. So if you do go over to our website and you can click on the live link here, then you will be able to see explanations of what all the live streams have been about. You can view our upcoming live stream schedule and also access previous live streams as well. Like I say, because this has been pre-recorded, the version of the website that you see will be slightly more up to date than what you're seeing now on the date of this recording. So the thing we're going to be talking about today, though, is how you can use something called a virtual learning environment to help with your staff development. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. And all of the notes for this talk are available on our website, so you'll be able to access them. Links to them will be below this video. But like I say, you can just come over to our website, go to live, and it'll be number 9 down here. So we're recording this a little bit in advance for you. So just going to go through this. I'm going to talk you through these notes, but you don't need to make any notes yourself because you can access this anytime you want to. So the first thing we've got is, well, what is a virtual learning environment? What is this VLE that we're talking about here? Now, on the notes page, we have put a little video that you can watch, and I'm not going to play it for you now, but it's there if you want to check it out later. But essentially, what a virtual learning environment is, it's a website that people can log into, and when they log into it, they are then able to access learning resources that they can use to learn about a particular topic or develop a particular skill. In addition to learning about things, they're also able to then to test their knowledge and understanding by maybe completing self-marking tests or engaging in other activities which allow them to see how far they've come or how far they've developed. And that's basically all we mean by a virtual learning environment. Some people will call it different things. Some people might call it a training website. Some people might call it a web-based learning environment. But whatever you call it, it's literally just a website that people log into to learn stuff. That's all it really is. Okay, so a little bit later on, we're going to be looking at some platforms that you can actually use to create your own virtual learning environment. But before we get into that, I just wanted to go through with you some of these key principles of e-learning, because a lot of the time people think e-learning is just a case of popping a PowerPoint on a website and saying to people, there you go, I've put the PowerPoint on the website, that's me done. And Unfortunately, it's not that simple. So what we've done is, now we're part of a university, so we do like our academic papers. We've combined the findings from these two academic papers here, and we've linked to them if you are interested in looking at them. But we've tried to combine the findings from these two academic papers into something that's easy to understand, and we've come up with this model. So the model that we're kind of it's a hybrid model between two academics. The first one, we've got this gentleman called Mays and Fowler. They came up with this model here that basically said that when you are trying to teach someone something via kind of online learning, the learning process occurs in three separate stages. So, and they called it this cycle here, this conceptualization cycle. Now, I'm going to talk you through this cycle, but I'm going to give you very specific examples. So we're not going to get too heavy in terms of kind of academia and kind of geek speak, if you like. So the first kind of part of the cycle is called conceptualization. And all that really means is it's people understanding stuff. It's people getting the concept of what you're trying to teach them. Okay, so for example, if I used to be a maths teacher, so if I'm teaching people about fractions, then the conceptualization there would be people understanding what a fraction is, and maybe, how they can add and subtract fractions and multiply them and all that kind of stuff you used to do in school. Now, how that normally takes place when we come down to kind of e-learning, if you like. So if you imagine you have a website that people can log into to learn about fractions, typically what will happen is the first stage is that the training, if you like, the staff training that you might deliver, the learning, might take place actually in front of people, physically in a room. So you're standing in a room and you're delivering that training to people, teach them about whatever it is you want to teach them about, health and safety, ladder training, whatever it might be, prevent training. And then you might say to them, well, okay, I've got some handouts for you, but in addition to me giving you the handouts physically in the room that we're in, you can access everything that I'm talking about online. A bit like we're doing now, really. So you can say to people, well, the content is all on the internet if you want it. Now, we call this the Bolton model. This is the kind of first stage that people tend to go into when they're talking about e-learning, about training people, because it's very, very low risk. Because if the internet died tomorrow, then it wouldn't matter if people couldn't access the content on the internet, because they're still doing the face-to-face stuff, and they're still maybe having the worksheets that they can go through and write on with a pen or a pencil or whatever. So this is the kind of the first stage. It's very, very low risk, and it's like I said, it really presents itself as people uploading PowerPoints onto a website that their delegates, that their trainees can access. Maybe doesn't have to be PowerPoints, could be PDF files, Word documents, but you get the idea. So you can say, don't worry, my training manual's online. And when that happens, that allows people to engage in this thing called conceptualization, because they can read the resources and then go, okay, fair enough, I understand what we're talking about, that's great. So it's kind of a backup thing. And like I say, content and support model, Bolton. And this is the first stage of e-learning, if you like. And bear in mind, I'm not talking about any platforms at the moment. I haven't name dropped any platforms that you want to use, because when we're talking about kind of the structure, it's kind of irrelevant what platform you're using. If you just imagine we've got a website, people are logging into it, they've had some face-to-face training, and now they can access something that's online for them. Okay, so this is stage one. But this isn't where kind of e-learning takes place, really. It's just to kind of back up what's happening face-to-face wise. Again, I'm not going to read through these notes here. I've kind of talked roughly around them. They're there for you if you want to read them later on. The next stage, though, is called this construction stage. And again, if I go onto the cycle here, so gone onto the website, access some PowerPoints, access some handouts, that's great. But now I want to move on to the second stage here. And the second stage is basically where people start to test the knowledge they've acquired via the handouts you gave them in the first stage. So people have gone online, they've logged onto the website, they've looked at the handouts, they've read the PowerPoints, they've gone, great, fantastic, I understand the concept of whatever it is I'm being taught. Again, we'll use fractions as an example, so you understand about fractions and what they are and how to add them. But now we want to test their knowledge. And so we would do this, if we're doing this in a classroom environment or a training room environment, we might give people several exercises to do. sat at their desks or sat at their tables. But when it comes to e-learning, when it comes to online learning, we want to give people the ability to have self-marking tests or assessments or some kind of activity that they do, which tests the knowledge and understanding they've acquired and gives them meaningful feedback on that. So we do this with e-learning by what's called a wraparound model. Okay, so the idea is, if you look at this here, it looks a bit like a fried egg, doesn't it? So in the centre, what you've got is, this is your traditional face-to-face stuff. Still, if you want to deliver it face-to-face, you can do. But what we've got is this wraparound here, which is our online components, where people can, if they want to, or if you want them to as a trainer, engage in self-marking tests, for example, or maybe a discussion forum. And what can happen with this particular model here is, you're still seeing them face to face, but there's this kind of osmosis or bleeding effect where you can say to people, okay, I want you to do something online before the lesson, before the training session, and we're going to talk about it when we meet face to face. Alternatively, you might say to them in the training session, we've covered this face to face, now I want you to go home and try something online, try doing a self-marking test. So this is kind of stage 2. So of this cycle here. So in order to get our people learning effectively with technology, the first stage, we need to give them some notes, some resources, some PowerPoints, some handouts to access on the internet. The second stage, though, we need to give them something meaningful to do to test that knowledge. And again, that can be a self-marking test, could be a forum discussion, anything you want really. But the idea is it's forcing them to apply the knowledge and understanding they've just obtained by looking at those PowerPoints, by looking at those handouts. And so we call this a wraparound model. But it doesn't end there. The third stage, and this is where kind of proper e-learning takes place, is where we get the dialogue. And this whole model here, it kind of replicates how people work in the real world. Because the idea behind the dialogue stage is, if you're doing e-learning with people, you want to give them an online environment where they're able to communicate with other people, not just the trainer, but also their peers, to discuss maybe how they might apply certain aspects of what they've learnt to their actual day job. So the idea is, you give them this kind of setup here, whereby you can give them activities to do, either individually or with others. You can give them assignments to do or work to do, again, individually or with others, while still allowing them to access those learning resources you supplied in the first stage. And the theory is that when these things overlap, this in the middle is where true e-learning takes place, where true learning takes place via technology, because it allows people to engage, and there's a fancy term called social constructionism. It's a fancy term, and all it really means is it's people coming together, learning something as a group, applying and testing their knowledge to make sure they understand the concept, and then working as a team to apply that knowledge to a real world situation. And if you think about it, this is kind of how teams work anyway in their day job. This is what happens. People come together. I mean, I don't know about you, but I can't remember the last time I worked as part of a team or a department when I would say, well, I've got some work to do and I'm going to sit at my desk and not talk to anyone about it. You know, if I need help or if I want to bounce some ideas off people, I'll go and talk to other people. So this is the idea. This is the kind of the holy grail, if you like, what you're looking for. And this, by doing this, it allows you to complete this learning cycle here. So again, to recap, if you're going to do e-learning with people, you need to give them resources that they can access that will teach them things. You need to give them the ability to test that knowledge that they've just gained from looking at the resources, and then you need to give them the ability online to communicate and share ideas and work collaboratively with other people. So it's a little bit more sophisticated than maybe just putting some PowerPoints on the internet, which is where this first bit, and there's nothing wrong with that, but that's kind of, it just stops at stage 1 and doesn't allow you to go through the entire loop. So this is basically what we're looking for. So when we talk to clients, particularly clients who want to get into online training, this is the kind of discussion we have with them, because a lot of people, like I said before, will just think they need to start and stop by putting PowerPoints on the internet. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, but it's not really harnessing the true power of what's possible using online learning. So The other thing, just to point out very briefly, and I am aware I'm kind of whistling through this quite rapidly, and I do recommend you read through the notes and click on the link if you're really interested in this, but we are going to give you a summary if you just want a tick list in terms of what to do. The other thing to bear in mind when you're doing this, if you are a training business or if you are working with colleagues, is adults learn differently to children. And a lot of people, they will base their kind of, if they're going to teach people, they will fall back on their own experience, which might have been when they were at school. But the problem is adults don't learn like children do. Now, there was a gentleman called Malcolm Knowles who was an expert in this field, and he came up with this term called andragogy. Again, it's a fancy term. It basically means, it's the study of how adults learn. And we've put a link to the article here. There's a kind of a whole kind of backstory to this, lots of research. But basically, he came up with several points that people need to apply to ensure that effective adult learning takes place. So what we've done is we've taken those points and we've combined them with the models we've just shown you previously, this one here, and we've put them in this hopefully very easy, very concise summary. Okay, and again, we're not talking about using any particular platform at the moment. You can use whatever platform you like. We are going to look at some in a second, but regardless of the platform that you use, this is what we would recommend for anyone who's seeking to do staff training, continual professional development with adults. So, if you want to use e-learning effectively, we recommend that, first of all, you use your e-learning platform to provide multiple online resources that have the same learning outcome. So again, if I'm to fall back to this model I was talking about here, this is the primary courseware we're talking about, where your PowerPoints and your handouts. The idea is, because adults know how they like to learn, is you might have a PowerPoint which teaches something, but then you should also try and have maybe a video that teaches the same thing, or a sound file that teaches the same thing, or maybe just a document that teaches the same thing, and you make all of those resources available so that your adult learners can pick how they want to learn the particular thing you're trying to teach them. So you don't want the method that you've chosen to be a barrier for them. So some people will be like, yeah, great, I can look at a PowerPoint, but some people are like, I can't do that. I need to watch a video, and they'll watch the video instead of looking at the PowerPoint. But it doesn't matter, as long as they're able to get to the same learning outcome as their peers. Who cares, basically? So that's the first thing we recommend you do. So you have multiple online resources. So you don't just upload your PowerPoints, you upload multiple different kinds of resources that let people learn the same thing. When you upload these resources, because adults need to know why they're learning something, we strongly recommend that next to each resource that you have there, people click on the link to access the resource, you put a line of text on your website, or learning management system, whatever you've got, that explains why it's a good idea that they should look at this resource. So it explains to them, hey, we're teaching you this because it's going to help you with X, Y, Z. And it might be a legal thing. It might be a case of, look, you have to learn this because it's a statutory, can't say it, or regulatory requirement. It might just be, hey, we're teaching you this so you don't have to spend so long plowing through your emails all the time. It's going to help you in some way, shape, or form. So, yeah, multiple resources with a line of text that explains why it's a good idea that they learn the thing they do. So that covers this kind of primary courseware bit. We move on to the secondary courseware. So you've got some resources for them. You then really should have, as an absolute minimum, some self-marking tests that allow them to test their knowledge and understanding. So the idea is they look at the PowerPoint presentation, they watch the video, they blah, 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 whatever it is. They go, okay, I understand that concept. Now I'm going to do a little test. And the little test should ideally mark their answers straight away for them and give them feedback based on what they did. Now, as a trainer or a training provider, you also want it to be self-marking, because if it's going to be marked by a human being, that's more work for you. I am aware, however, that if you are getting people to write paragraphs, you do need to have a human look at that. So with these self-marking tests, we're really looking at right or wrong answers, multiple choice, numerical answers, that kind of thing. If you are wanting people maybe to write a poem, then you are going to have to get someone to look at it and give a grade. There's at the moment at least, there's no smart way around that. And finally, if we come back over this thing here, the final thing with this dialogue, what we recommend you do is that you give people an online forum or a chat room that allows them to talk to one another, to talk to their fellow learners as well as yourself. So online forums are usually a good idea because it means that, and again, we covered this with our communicating effectively when we live streamed a couple of weeks ago, and we said there are two main types of communication you can do with computers. There's the type where people have to be all online at the same time. Think a video conference or a Zoom call, something like that. Everyone's got to be present and correct. Or there's the kind of chat where people can be on at different times and respond to each other over a time period. Best example of that I can think of is like a Facebook wall. You might make a Facebook post at 9 a.m. in the morning. Someone might see that and reply to you at 11:30. Someone else might comment then at 4:30 in the afternoon. When it comes to e-learning, if you're going to give people the ability to talk to their peers, we strongly recommend that you go for the kind of like the online forum route, the route where they don't have to be all online at the same time because people's work schedules are different. Now, that's not to say you shouldn't do a live, video conference or live video chat as well if that's part of your delivery. But what we're saying is when it comes to giving people the ability to talk to their peers about what they've learned, about maybe how they might apply it to their jobs, we strongly recommend that you give people the ability to talk over an extended period of time. They don't have to be online at the same time together. So this is what we're saying. So these are our kind of 4 key things. It doesn't look like an awful lot, does it? But it is, believe it or not, we have combined this from a number of different articles, a number of different schools or theories of research, combined with our own experience. My personal experience, I've been doing this for 20 years. So this stuff does work, honestly. Now, so that's the kind of the theory. So thinking, okay, that's fair enough. What tools can I use to do this? Well, there are lots of different tools that you can use. We've looked at many of them over the last couple of weeks when we've been doing these weekly live streams. The 2 we're going to showcase to you today, and again, we're not going to teach you how to learn them. We're not going to teach you how to use them. That's not the purpose of these live streams. The purpose of these live streams is purely to signpost you to tools that you may wish to consider using. Okay, that's what we're talking about. So the first one that we've basically got here is something called Google Sites. Now, Google Sites is a fantastic tool. What it allows you to do very, very quickly is to create an unlimited number of websites that can be made public or private to your training delegates. And those websites can contain videos, presentations, handouts, links, resources, whatever you want to do. They can also contain self-marking quizzes as well. Okay. Now, the Google Sites system isn't as fully fledged as the next system we're going to show you. However, if you are just dipping your toe in the water and trying to kind of have a dabble with e-learning, or maybe you're trying to support your existing training program with some online content, then to be brutally honest with you, I would say Google Sites is the best option for you for dipping your toe in. The downside to it is that what it won't do is it doesn't have like a learner tracking system. So it won't allow you to have maybe a delegate. Let's say you've got a delegate called Joe Bloggs, and Joe Bloggs has done 5 training courses with you. It won't easily allow you to map out Joe Bloggs' engagement with across all 5 training courses. It's possible, you can do it, but it requires a little bit of legwork behind the scenes to make that happen. But if you are looking for an easy and simple way to get a website up and running with learning content that people can access, that can be made private, and then get them to do some self-marking tests and also communicate with each other via an online forum or discussion group, then Google Sites is a great way. It's a great way to start. It's a great way to go. So I'd say certainly have a look at that. We've put a little video on there which will help you get started with Google Sites. And again, if you're thinking, well, this is something you might like to kind of start dabbling with, and you are based in Shropshire or Telford and Wrekin, you can always apply for a support from us, and we'll help you with it. No problem at all. because this will count as a digitally innovative product or service because you're trying to get your training courses online, or at least, partially online. So we've got a button down here you can click on to launch Google Sites, no problem at all. Now, the other one which I want to show you, or make you aware of very, very briefly, is something called Moodle. Now, Moodle is the world's most popular learning management system. Make no bones about it. Moodle is a fantastic tool. It's used by training companies, universities, colleges and schools all over the world. It is a free and open source product that you can use. And unlike Google Sites, it is vastly more sophisticated, and it will do that kind of learner tracking, learner progression I was talking about. It'll do lots more as well. What I would say again is, if you've already dabbled in kind of online training before and you're looking for something a bit more robust, a bit more fancy, Moodle is a cracking way to get started with it, but not for beginners. Beginners, I would say, definitely go down the Google Sites route. But if you've done it before, it's great. So we put a video on here which basically talks about getting started with Moodle. They do offer free hosting. And you can click on this link here and be taken to something called Moodle Cloud, where, again, it's a little bit slow because we're recording it, but you can click on the button, fill a form in, and get your own Moodle site ready for your learners in under about 15 minutes. Obviously, if you haven't got the content to populate it with, it's going to take a bit longer before you can launch, but the site itself, very, very fast. Now, just to make you aware on this, Google Sites, like I said before, is free. Moodle, although the software is free and open source, if you're having it hosted for you by Moodle Cloud or another provider, just as an aside, it's a bit, for those of you who are familiar with WordPress, it's a bit like WordPress in that you can host it yourself or you can pay for someone to host it for you. Moodle Cloud is just one option for getting it hosted. The reason why we're showing you Moodle Cloud, though, is because they have a free option that you can start with straight away. So like today, if you wanted to. So definitely have a look at the free trial. So we've got here. So you've got the free trial here. You can try it for 45 days if you want to, but then after those 45 days, you would have to pay some money, depending on the number of users that you've got. So, like I said before, I wouldn't go down this road until you're actually making money from your online courses. So start with Google Sites first. Get the ball rolling. Once the money's coming in, then use some of the cash from that, maybe to fund something like this if you wanted to. But there are other hosting providers are available. Okay, so, but Moodle will let you, like I say, create an unlimited number of courses, all sorts of self-marking tests. It's got the forums you can have people talking to. It allows people to submit you written work which you can mark as well, and it will track everything over multiple courses. It is a fantastically powerful tool. So yeah, certainly check it out if you've already dabbled with e-learning before, with online learning. But if you haven't, if you're new to all this, if you're thinking, where do I start? I would say get started with Google Sites. And in terms of what you're actually going to put on there, then I would say, well, make sure that you're following this cycle here. So putting some resources on, giving people self-marking tests so they can apply test their knowledge, and give them the ability to talk to one another to discuss what they've learned, and do it following our kind of 4-point plan down here. Okay. So like I said before, the purpose of this streams, it's not to say, you must use this. It's to make you aware of platforms that are available. There are alternatives that are available. These aren't the only tools you can use. We've put a link down here that you can click on that will take you to a website that shows you some alternatives to Moodle. And again, we'll just wait for that to load here. So we have, let's get rid of the adverts. Honestly, adverts everywhere. Let's go to that. So again, if you come to this site here, you will see there's an article that will show you some alternatives to the Moodle platform. And again, try them, have a go, have a look, do your research, see what works best for you, and what works best for your learners. So that's about it, really. So the purpose of the live stream is just to kind of make you aware of a couple of different platforms you can use, but really to say to you, regardless of what platform you do end up using, if you're going down kind of the e-learning route, if you want to start supporting your training and development with internet content, then certainly try and follow these 4 rules that we've set up here, because they will help you in the long run, and they certainly will make your course more appealing to adult learners. So that's about it. If you want to know more, then all you need to do is, so you can have a look at our website if you want to, but you can give us a call. Our numbers are displayed on the bottom of every page of our website. Alternatively, you can drop us an email. Our email address is digitalucs@chester.ac.uk, and a member of the team will be more than happy to get in touch with you, even if it's just for a chat. And like I say, if you are a small to medium based enterprise based in Shropshire, based in Telford and Wrekin, that's predominantly doing business to business, and you want to start doing some kind of online training, or maybe help your existing staff out, then give us a shout, and if we can apply for some support, and if we can support you, we definitely will. So that's about it. So yeah, thank you ever so much. So sorry this isn't a live stream, but if you do have any questions, please do submit them to us via email or via Twitter using the links that have been scrolling across the bottom of your screen. Thank you very much indeed, and I'll speak to you soon.